Right. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening or afternoon, wherever you are tuning in from. My name is Tyler Havens. I serve the fraternity as the Director of Chapter Services. Pardon me. And I want to be among one of the first to congratulate you all on your nominations as your chapter's Collegian of the Year. We know that you've dedicated a lot of time to your studies, your chapter, and Delta Sigma Pi, and we appreciate that investment and look forward to recognizing your accomplishments. As I said, I'm Tyler Havens. I am joined by Andrew Amazine, our 2024 National Collegian of the Year, and Gracie Campbell, our 2025 National Collegian of the Year. I will be taking your questions in the chat throughout this presentation. And now that I have given them their platform, I am going to turn the program over to Andrew and Gracie. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tyler. So just kind of starting with a quick little brief overview of what exactly the COY program is. The Collegiate of the Year program has now spanned over 50 years, with Andrew actually being the 54th and 55th ever recipients of this highest honor that the fraternity can give to one of its members. National COYs also serve as a member of the board of directors, which we'll discuss in a little more detail throughout the program, and also aid in providing collegiate and young alumni perspectives that help steer the long-term strategic direction of the organization. The COY program comes with many recognitions and rewards at the regional, provincial, and national levels, and we're going to cover all of that today.
So it's groups of alumni members who review and select winners at the regional, provincial, and national levels. All nominees who submit their application within a region are considered for that region's recognition. All of the regional winners within a province are then considered for that province's recognition. And then finally, each of the provincial winners, so totaling 5, are considered by the National Committee for the national winner. There are a number of items that awards reviewers will consider as they evaluate the applications. On your screen, in this order of importance, is what reviewers will be considering when selecting the Collegian of the Year. So first up is fraternity involvement. That doesn't just mean officer roles within your chapter. It also includes committee involvement locally, regionally, provincially, and/or nationally. So really make the most of that to highlight all of your fraternity involvement. Second up, you have your attendance at inter-chapter fraternity events, including but not limited to Grand Chapter Congress, lead schools, lead summits, provincial lead conferences, whether you've assisted in regional, in-person, or virtual initiations, involvement in starting a new chapter, etc. Third is what your goals are as a member of the board of directors if selected as the National Collegian of the Year. Again, as Gracie mentioned, we're going to discuss the board position in further detail as we go along, but that is a strong part of this application, and therefore that's weighted higher up. Next, we have the degree of leadership exhibited in Delta Sigma Pi. So this is where you tell the committee about your fraternity involvement beyond just listing it out resume style. Next is your university and community involvement and leadership. Our Collegians of the Year have been and should be well-rounded and involved in their collegiate experience and be able to bring that to their role. Sixth is scholastic aptitude and GPA. Part of being well-rounded is excelling in the classroom as well. And then finally, there's an opportunity to add some additional supporting documentation. There's no obligation to upload any additional documents, just to submit the application, but there is the opportunity to submit things such as letters of recommendation. Other criteria that will be considered include, in no particular order for these, the ability to represent the fraternity on the National Board of Directors, leadership ability, dependability, responsibility, honesty, integrity, and sincerity, moral character, personality, and professional attitude. A nice short list.
So now that you have kind of an overview of what goes into the application, what specific do you need to complete the application? So first, I just want to note that by now you should have received an email with a unique link to your personalized COY application. If you don't believe you have received it, check all of your known email accounts and spam folders. If you still can't find it at that time, send an email to awards@dsp.org, and the central office staff may be able to assist you. Please do not wait until the last minute to check. The staff really wants to ensure that there are no glitches with your application due to the hub transition. Which, speaking of, just one thing I want to note really quick, since you've been nominated, at some point you should have received 2 emails with that link. The first one is a correct working link. That initial email you got right after being nominated, that link works. The second email you received, the link does not work. It'll try and take you to the old hub. So just be aware of that as you're going through those emails, that initial link will be the one working. But again, any issues you come up with, you can always reach out to awards@dsp.org for extra help. So your application will contain basic contact information such as your name, address, phone number, and membership information such as the chapter you were initiated at and the date of your initiation, as well as your expected date of graduation. Again, some of this information will come pre-filled, but others you will have to input yourself. After that, it will also ask you for your Delta Sigma Pi activities, positions, and honors, including offices, committee positions, or other leadership positions you have held in Delta Sigma Pi, like Andrew earlier. You'll want to indicate when and how long for you held each position. Also note any local/chapter, regional, provincial, or national honors you've received. This should also be where you list and describe any regional or national fraternity events you have attended. These can be Grand Chapter Congresses, leads, and other large fraternity gatherings. Nominees should excel outside of the chapter as well, so discussing any involvement in other extracurriculars, leadership roles, and/or honors are part of this application. This includes any employment or internships you've had as well leading up to this point. We also want our Collegians of the Year to excel within the classroom, so some academic information will be asked as well. Nominees are then asked to complete 2 essays, one that will discuss what your plans would be if you're selected as the National Collegian of the Year. The other is to describe what makes you a leader. Both essays are where you have the opportunity to discuss not only your experience, but also how you view this role as a board member candidate. There is a third optional essay that serves as a space for any additional information that the nominee would like to share. Finally, there is an opportunity to include any additional documents, such as letters of recommendation to support your application and a form to release your transcripts. Please do not send your transcripts to the central office directly. You just need to complete the release. And none of these additional documents are required, so don't let waiting on an item such as a letter of recommendation stop you from submitting the application as a whole.
All right, so let's get into the decidedly fun part of this. So as mentioned before, there are a number of recognitions that come with each level for a Collegian of the Year. For just being nominated by your chapter and submitting your application, you will receive a certificate of recognition and are listed in an upcoming issue of the Delta Sig magazine, which is sent out by the fraternity. Those individuals who are selected as the Regional Collegian of the Year, in addition to the certificate and being listed in the Delta Sig, will also receive a special silver badge, which is only available to COY winners, as well as a cash award for educational purposes, thanks to the gifts made to the Kitchens, Elrond, and Sparks scholarships through the Delta Sigma Pi Leadership Foundation, and will be announced at a national event. As I mentioned before, regional winners are considered then at the provincial level.
So should your application be that stand out in the North Central, Northeastern, South Central, Southern, or Western province, you will take home all of those recognitions that Andrew mentioned at the regional level and will also receive a $500 scholarship for continuing or graduate school studies that occur within the next 5 years. This is again through the generous gifts to the Leadership Foundation by Mr. and Mrs. Sydney A. Sparks. And like the regional winners, the provincial winners are then considered and moved forward for that national possible recognition. If you are that one standout application to be recognized as the National Collegian of the Year, that $500 scholarship becomes a $5,000 scholarship for continued studies, and you receive a commemorative plaque. And most importantly, the National Collegian of the Year serves a 2-year term as a voting member of the Board of Directors.
So now let's talk a little more about the Board of Director responsibilities. If you're serious about this, you should really think of your COY application almost like you're applying for a job or role on the Board of Directors, because with great recognition also comes great responsibility. much of which can occur when the winner is transitioning from campus to career life as well. Board responsibilities can require several hours of work per week and sometimes require travel that may be partially self-funded. It is important for members to know these responsibilities of the National Collegian of the Year before applying. So listed here, we have engaging and seeking feedback, thoughts, and ideas from members and communicating those viewpoints to the fraternity's governing bodies, such as the board. Attending and actively participating in national fraternity events, including lead events, GCC, and regular board meetings. I know I'm getting to go to the Kansas City event here in a couple weeks. You also get the opportunity to serve on board committees, advisory panels, work groups, and/or task forces as appropriate. And then you also get to assist in the development and implementation of an annual plan to educate members about the Collegian of the Year program and encourage their participation in the program, i.e. what we are doing here today.
So moving into just some personal advice from each of us, I just wanted to share my biggest tip is to start early. Being here is a great first start. Maybe you haven't started the application yet because you wanted to get the overview from us and ask any questions, but really starting as soon as you can is going to really benefit you. There is so much information that you can put into this application, and you want to make sure that you're giving it the time that it deserves. I also recommend reaching out to previous winners. Again, being here is a great start. You have me and Andrew to talk to. But there are 53 winners before us that are all really so willing and open to help these new nominees move forward in the process. And they have all been a great resource to me. I know I reached out to some while I was filling out mine, and I cannot recommend it enough. So those would be my biggest words of advice.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things that I would recommend. Firstly, I know all of the additional documentation is optional, but I would highly recommend looking into finding letters of recommendation that really help tell the story of who you are as a leader. I know it's optional again, but believe at least of all of the recent winners I know, they all had at least one letter of recommendation in there. And then beyond that, as you go through this application, if you're looking to do well, the advice I received is you want to try to tell a story. So not just listing out here are the things you've done, but like, who are you? Because all they have to go off of is what you write down. Also, don't worry about writing too much. I highly recommend putting it into a separate document to write. And I know I don't even know how many pages worth, but it comes out to a lot as long as it's within the limits. But really tell the story of who you are. I know I tried to focus on a few different parts that talked about who I was as an applicant. There was the educational side, so who I was in school, the brother, so part of the fraternity, as well as who I am at work, obviously still in college, but talking about internship experiences, other opportunities to go above and beyond, and try to just communicate your story and give people something to hold on to because you want them to read your application and think, yes, this is the person wholeheartedly that I believe should win this award.
I'm going to offer a couple of pieces as well, even though I am not a Collegian of the Year. I'm going to speak a little bit more from the staff side and the management side. Gracie's going to probably touch on this again. Andrew already touched about it, and I can't reiterate it enough. Start early. Make sure that from the logistical side that the application is accessible. Please, 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 if you are having issues with it, email awards@dsp.org, hub@dsp.org, me directly, havens@dsp.org. We want to make sure that that is working for you. And then also, I can't stress enough to also use that Microsoft Word or Google Docs because they have word counts. Because there are specific word counts, as Andrew was mentioning, on those essays. The last piece of advice from a logistical standpoint, and I think I'm stealing Gracie's thunder, but you probably can't hear this enough. I am a Mac user. I love my Mac users. Work makes me use a PC. but I would highly recommend that not everybody in the world is a Mac user. So if you tend to do your word processing in the Mac software like Pages or Numbers, turn it into a PDF or turn it into a Google Doc or turn it into a Word doc before you add it to your application, because not all of our reviewers will have access to reading those if you have them uploaded as the Apple equivalent software. So again, I'm a Mac user, nothing against my Mac users. I love you all. I just want to make sure that our reviewers can see your materials.
Absolutely. So kind of perfectly transitioning into our next thing here, where is the application and what are your deadlines? So as previously mentioned, find that email with your unique link to the application. As you're working on it, you can save it along the way within the new hub, but I really recommend doing it on a separate software and having it there for your edits and for your word counts until you are pretty confident that it is ready to go, and then just copy and pasting, because you want to be really careful not to accidentally click on save and submit instead prior to completing it fully. Once it is submitted, it cannot be unsubmitted, and your application will be evaluated based on whatever information you had inputted when you clicked the button. So I really recommend working on essays and information in a separate document. Both of those have a word count feature, like Tyler talked about. I also recommend not uploading any of those supporting documents using Mac exclusive software. Again, it's just our review teams may not be able to open them, and I would hate for any of you to have a recommendation letter or extra essay or something like that submitted that isn't able to be viewed by the committee, so that they aren't getting that full story of who you are and not getting to see the effort that you put in. Your applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on November 15th, your chapter's local time. No late applications will be considered, so you really need to write that deadline everywhere and anywhere and make sure you have it in by then. Regional awards teams then have a month to review all of the applications for their region and select a winner, and they report those to the provincial award teams, who have another month to review the regional winners and select their winner. And then finally, those 5 provincial winners go to the national awards team, and they review those applications to select the 2026 Collegian of the Year and report it to the board of directors.
All right, so then before we get to some questions, we do want to remind you that all of the requirements for your application and what is considered are covered in the National Awards and Recognition Guide at dsp.org/awards. We also look forward to all of you beginning the process of completing your applications, and I know Gracie and I are looking forward to welcome one of you into the ranks of the National Collegians of the Year. Thank you.
Any questions?
I was going to say, I don't have any questions in the chat. Anybody that's got questions for Gracie or Andrew, please feel free. Again, continue to drop them in the chat or unmute and ask away.
Hey guys, this is Colin here. Hello from San Antonio. First and foremost, thank you Tyler, Gracie, and Andrew for hosting this this evening. I was curious if Gracie and Andrew, would you guys be open to sharing what your goals were when you stepped onto the board?
I'm happy to do that. Andrew, if you want to take it away first.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm fine with it. I think Gracie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you gave a very nice answer to what you were talking about, or maybe it was just a conversation we had about it. I have my application up. I don't know if you want me to scroll through it. For context, after I put it into a PDF, it was 20 pages long. That's partly because of the formatting, but um, this is for goals as the 2024 National Collegian of the Year. So one thing I would encourage you to focus on as you're going through your application is what are things that would be expected of you on the board of directors, not just in your current chapter. So I think from what I've heard, a pitfall that a lot of people fall into is thinking about, all right, so in my chapter, what is something we struggle with? Like, can we have better community service events kind of thing? And focusing on that in their applications, whereas that's not exactly what you're looking for at a national level. So I think in my application, I spent a lot of time talking about how to develop collegiate brothers into involved alumni and viewing it as more of a whole pipeline as opposed to you're a collegiate and then that ends. And then separately, you are then starting as an alumni. So I talked about that as well as how to use like the awards program to try to like teach other chapters about like, hey, so this chapter won a provincial award last year. So what have they been doing well? How can you then utilize that to bring back to your own chapter? That's just what I wrote. It's looking back, I don't know if it was ideal because obviously it's like what can you actually do in your position? Um, but yeah, something to give some thought to, Gracie.
Yeah, so honestly, mine's fairly similar. I kind of like how Andrew like called out like trying to have more of a strategic perspective in what your goals are, because I do feel like some of mine were maybe a little more organizational or like you said kind of that chapter level issues that I saw. I think one thing that helped me is I had previously served as a member of the collegiate advisory committee, so I was seeing an idea of what those high level national focuses and topics are that they want collegiate support and insight from. So I was able to integrate some of that into my goals. Similar to what Andrew said, I talked about contacting specific chapters that we've seen succeed and find out what they did to get to that point and offering those resources to all of the chapters. You know, if they had some great program, why can we not share and promote that to others and help all of our chapters succeed in that way? I also talked about a potential initiative of having the COYs offer occasional office hours or town halls or something like that, where collegians, alumni, other fraternity members could just gain insight to what we're up to and share their ideas and opinions with us in a more informal way. That was actually inspired by one of the previous COYs I talked to, said he had written about a very specific, like, this is an initiative I want to implement. And I believe Sydney Sampson Webb, the 2023 COY, did the same thing. So if you have something, like, don't just make one up if there's not something that's specific like that that's leading you. But if you have, like, I would love to implement this initiative at a national level, there's nothing saying that you can't at least put it in the application and show that goal and that passion.
Thank you both for
Yeah.
those insights. That was really helpful, exactly what I was looking for. So thank you both.
Happy to help.
Great. Thanks, Colin. We've got a question in here from Jessica. Is there a good way to contact or connect with past collegians of the year?
Yes, I would recommend LinkedIn personally. You can view all of the past national COYs on the DSP website. So I would just go and search them up on LinkedIn personally. I think that's what I did. But we're also, I believe we would both be more than happy to help you get into contact, especially with more recent ones. But if you have anything to add to that or another idea.
Yeah, with recent ones, the LinkedIn thing, I'm shocked that that's not the first thing that came to my mind because I know from personal experience that that's been utilized previously. I also like in starting to go to some national events as a collegiate, I started to meet some alumni who I was then talking to and applying for this award. And the alumni just love to get excited about it because they're like, oh, a little like another collegiate's gonna join the board of directors. But like alumni I knew were like, let me connect you to like the one other guy from your chapter who's ever won this award. So you can chat about like submitting your application, that kind of thing.
Your volunteer leaders are also a great resource. I know I talked to my RVP and my DD before submitting mine to have them read over my application, give me any tips, any recommendations, things like that. So if you aren't going to reach out to a previous COY, there's other options too, and I really recommend talking to any brother you can, honestly.
Great. Thanks so much. And I am dropping those websites that Gracie and Andrew had just mentioned about where to find our collegians of the year in the chat here, right under your question, Jessica. Next question we have is, how would you suggest newer brothers who haven't been in the chapter that long to stand out and be recognized? How to stand out from a small chapter?
I can start with that. So I think that goes back to something I was talking about before is like, what is your story? There are a number of different things that can set you apart as an individual. It doesn't just have to be fraternity involvement. Like if you've been to a national event or even if you've been to I think you're in my region, the Desert Mountain region. So if you've been to one of the regional initiations, like that's a good thing to talk about and highlighting what are your takeaways from that? Because not just I went, but also here are the kinds of things that I learned and I got out of it. I know the majority of what I could write about was fraternity based, but they also talk about being well-rounded. So I tried to highlight, oh, I've done a lot in the fraternity, so that's a good thing. But you can also talk about I've done a lot outside of the fraternity. I've gotten really involved in my community or in the university. Just knowing what you're trying to highlight and really making a purposeful effort to spell out that that's a good thing and that's what sets you apart.
Yeah, building off of that, I cannot recommend enough using those under each thing that you're listing on your application. Like you list that you were vice president of alumni relations. Don't just put, I served in this for a semester. I planned this event. Like, talk about how it brought you closer to your brothers. Talk about what you learned. Talk about challenges you face. Maybe you have a lot more challenges as a smaller chapter. Talk about how you overcame those, what resources you had and were able to use. All of those things are great ways to be able to showcase and really highlight whatever experience you do have, even if it maybe isn't as much as another applicant. Also going back to that like optional third essay, I wrote about in mine being like a first generation student. Maybe that doesn't apply to like everyone on the call, but if you have something like that that makes you stand out as a student or as a person, there is a space to share that with the committee. So maybe you talk about being from a smaller chapter or a smaller school. My school had never had a national collegiate of the year before, so there's definitely ways to succeed from any chapter as any person. You just have to be able to tell that story, like Andrew.
Yeah, and sorry, last thing, but new stuff keeps coming to mind. But it doesn't all have to be formal roles that you've held as well. I think in just like in one of the fraternity awards or recognitions portions, I put that like my big and I were voted within the chapter as like the best big little pair for the semester. And like what that meant starting out in the chapter and feeling like I had a sense of community and wanting to like also give other people that experience. So it's just like it doesn't have to be that deep. But like think of anything that you can take away from your experiences and kind of give to other people.
Yeah, serving on initiation team, serving as a big brother in general, those also can be included. So yeah, find those unique things that you can add in there.
All right, fantastic. All right, our next question is coming from Jonathan. If we haven't been able to attend a national event, what events can we add to our application to make that section impactful?
I would say if you've done any more regional, like maybe you and another chapter had some kind of event together, if you did an initiation in your region or with another chapter, I'm trying to think of other things. Any like maybe your chapter had a anniversary celebration. I know some people have been having those recently. You had an alumni event. Anything like that, I think could be highlighted.
Yeah, I think you can even put like national webinars such as this on because it's like Tyler is here from staff facilitating this and you're attending because you want to put your effort into this. You're not just gonna open up the application and submit it. Like you're here for a reason because you're taking extra time out of your schedule to commit effort to this. So I think there likely are things that you can highlight in as part of that section.
And I could be wrong. I don't know if this is still a thing, but I know when I opened my like personalized COY application link, any webinars I had attended were already pre-populated in there for me. So if you have, they should already be in there. Maybe this one won't be though, since it's happening after.
Fingers crossed that they are, Gracie. That's hopefully the intention that they are showing up for you in there. But if they are not, please feel free to add to the application as you see fit. Got another question here. If you are selected to be on the board of directors as the National Collegian of the Year, what if you can't make it to certain events or cover the expenses of certain trips? What's the expectation for these events?
Yeah,
Good question. Oh, sorry, go for it, Andrew.
you're all good. I'll go first. First off, the travel stuff is one of my favorite things from this whole experience. And so one of the only things that is set in stone that you have to attend is like board meetings. And so like twice a year they have those in person. I think one of them's in usually July, August, and one of them's around January. And so for that kind of thing, they try to let you know with enough warning ahead of time. And so hopefully you're able to make it. Worst case scenario, I know for my first board meeting I was attending, Sydney, my predecessor, was supposed to be in a different country. And like, that's fine. So she just wouldn't be there. She ended up making it though. It was a great redemption arc. But then as it comes to like lead events or GCC, hopefully you know the GCC dates far ahead of time so you can put those on your calendar. But also, even for leads, we have the opportunity to attend those, and you fill out along with the rest of the board, like your interest in attending whatever ones. So you specify your schedule ahead of time. Um, and so again, it's never that deep, but it's more about your opportunities to attend events as your schedule permits. Otherwise, I think you're fine.
Yeah, pretty much nailed it with that. Also, if there's any concern of the cost aspect, you can find the reimbursement policies for board members in the policies and procedures, I believe. Might be bylaws. But you can find those online and review those. But like for board meetings, I don't think I had a single out-of-pocket cost. So there might be things here and there that we want to give the caveat or expectation that there may be out of pocket cost at certain times for certain travel, but it really is such a great opportunity, and you are given plenty of notice for these things and time to plan for them and budget for them. I think if it's ever like a huge concern or anything like that, you are welcome to talk to the other board members about some possible things for that, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. It's been a great experience for me so far. I haven't had any personal issues.
Yeah, I think the main time that comes up is for all board members, you get reimbursed for half of your hotel. And the intention for that is that you get to room with another board member. And so, like, Jerry and I have been buddies my whole term. So we get to room at every event. Um, but that's the main time you would incur that is if you just want to have a room to yourself. And so it's never that much, but I think that's mostly what they're referring to there.
Great. And I did drop, for anybody that is interested, the information about our 2027 Grand Chapter Congress in New Orleans in the chat as well. And for those of you who are not familiar, Jerry Hotwagner, our National Vice President of Finance, is who Andrew is referring to. All right, got another question in here. Would you recommend a variety of letters of recommendation, some from work, fraternity, community, mentors, etc., or just more DSP focused, DDs, RVPs, brothers, etc.?
Yes, please let me
I
go.
personally,
You go, Gracie. I'm
sorry, I should
opinionated
just
on
let
this.
you go first so we have like a pattern going here. I
That's okay.
personally think if you're going to have multiple, it's great to showcase multiple aspects, especially if you have those available to you. I know I personally had like a graduated brother from my chapter, the dean of my business school, and then my supervisor from my internship, right mine. Oh, and my advisor, like my advisor, right for me. So I had a little bit of a blend there. But if you are only using one, I would maybe recommend focusing on someone who can testify to your DSP experience and leadership, as that is probably the most heavily considered aspect. There's nothing wrong with having that variety, or especially if you have someone that you have a really great connection with, like some community mentor that can really give you an amazing recommendation letter, use that to your advantage for sure.
Yeah, this speaks exactly to what I was talking about before, is trying to highlight different aspects of who you are as an individual. So I know when I was going into it, I was trying to strategize. Like I wanted one of my older Delta Sig alumni friends who she's been around forever. She's not literally. She's gone to a bunch of national events. She's met a bunch of brothers. So I wanted her to speak to my ability to like go out and interact with alumni and make connections with them. Um, because it's not just who you are as a collegiate. Like if you're going for a board of directors position, you're also like alumni are all of our brothers too. So speaking to my connections with alumni, I got one of our younger volunteer leaders to speak to who I am as a collegiate. So someone who has a little more insight into like who I am with my chapter involvement, going to events as like chapters delegate, that kind of thing. Oh, you can also, if you've been chapter delegate, put that in your application. I got my supervisor from work, and then I tried to have someone from my internship to speak to like who I will be for my full-time job, but I ended up just going with a supervisor at work, like at school. So
All right. I have another question in here that I'm happy to jump in on as well, but I'll let Andrew and Gracie answer as well. Is there certain campus involvement that are viewed more highly than others? I'm looking at their faces and let me jump in here and saying that um, Gracie and Andrew probably don't have an answer to this question. Neither do I, because all of our regional, provincial, and national awards teams are all different. They're all individuals. They're all reviewing your applications independently and kind of on their own. So there's going to be some things that may stick out for one individual reviewer where it doesn't stick out as much for a different individual reviewer, and vice versa. So I think Gracie and Andrew have really kind of said it the best in diversify your experiences, because you don't know necessarily what is going to resonate more with one reviewer over another, because the team is going to be different across the board. Gracie, Andrew, I don't know if you want to add anything more to that, but I just saw the faces like, what do we say here?
I don't know that I have anything super like concrete to add to that. I do know that one thing that was mentioned to me after I was announced as the national COY was that some people were really excited that I was in a social sorority, Kappa Delta as well. And I know some people were excited that I had that unique perspective from a sorority and the fraternity to bring in. But I don't think that it was seen as more highly important or weighted more or anything like that, or that it was a requirement. But I think sometimes it can help. But I don't think you have to have been president or you have to have done this. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I would just try and highlight anything that you do have to offer, as we've mentioned throughout here a few times. But I think Tyler kind of hit the nail on the head with that one.
yep, Tyler basically got it 100%. As always, big trust in Tyler. But I look, guys, it's late. We got to have some fun with it. So this it all comes back. I'm always a big proponent of the narrative is what matters a lot more, because if you just put your positions like and they see president versus member, then all they have to go off of is that one person said they were president. If you go into, I was a member of this organization because I care so deeply in this cause, I met all these people, I took advantage of my time there, that whole story is going to be a lot worth a lot more than just putting headlines up there. So that's where I would really encourage you to take your time and write about what you got out of all your experiences, as well as what you hope to do in the future, as opposed to just worrying about what the headline is or what your title was.
Great. I have a question in here that I did respond right in the chat, but for anybody else, can a senior graduating December qualify for Collegian of the Year? From a logistical standpoint, the answer to that, as long as you are a collegiate in good standing, when the application is due and submitted, you are eligible for the recognition and each of the levels, because our Collegians of the Year are not collegians forever, and many times are not collegians when they're actually serving their terms. So yes, absolutely. Do you have one last question in here? So if you've got more questions, please populate them in here for Gracie and Andrew. Are pictures allowed in the application or in our PDFs?
I know for a fact that they are. I know from firsthand experience, not on my application, but I know I've seen others who took the additional documentation section to be, let me put together just a collage of photos of me attending events with my brothers and just look at us having fun and say it's at a community service event or professional event or at national events. Like literally whatever you want is allowed to go in that section within reason. But yes, I know for a fact that people have done that before.
I have nothing additional to add to that.